opportunity to address the, oh wait, roll call. I forget it every time. Roll call, please, ma'am.
Kevin Braxton,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Here.
Thomas Goss,
Here?
Monica Mazzella, Michael Nermster,
Here.
Harold Free,
Here.
Eula Simeon,
Here.
Lenore Beatty, here, and Jason Hill.
Here.
Okay, moving on to number 3, opportunity to address the commission by employees or others. Oh, okay, yes, sir, absolutely. Okay, well, if there's no public comment, I would like to take this time to welcome our newest commission member, Mr. Newstrom. He will be representing us. You're from the Lafayette area? Yes, sir. Would you like to say anything, or?
No, I'm just here to listen and learn, and it's an honor to be here.
We're proud to have you. Thank you very much for your service. Thank you for being here. Okay, moving on to the business of the day. Item number 4, consideration of the June 8, 2017 minutes. Do I have any comments about the June 8, 2017 minutes? Do I have a motion to approve the June 8, 2017 minutes?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor of approval of the June 8, 2017 minutes?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Number 2, discussion of the proposed rule changes per General Circular 184. We're going to begin with Section A, Chapter 4. Please be patient with us. We're going to take our time and make sure that everybody clearly understands what these rules are, and Mr. Hannaman is going to read the rules for the record. Mr. Hannaman, I defer to you.
Thank you, sir. The first rule change is in Chapter 4, under 4.1D2. The proposed change is to remove some erroneous commas. So as currently written, it is the commission, comma, may add positions to the unclassified service and may, comma, revoke any position added to the unclassified service under the provisions of this subsection. And as amended, the rule would read, the commission may add positions to the unclassified service and may revoke any position added to the unclassified service under the provisions of this subsection. And then additionally, in 4.1D3, it's change of the masculine pronoun to the generic director. So as it currently reads, the director may not revoke any position added to the unclassified service by the commission, but may revoke those positions added to him. And as added by him. The amended rule will read, the director may not revoke any position added to the unclassified service by the commission, but may revoke those positions added by the director.
Is that completed? Okay. Do we have any public comments about the proposed rule changes to Chapter 4? Do we have any discussion for the table about the proposed rule changes to Chapter 4?
Well, to Chapter 4, 4D, 2 and 3.
Okay. Yes, for 2 and 3, okay. Okay, on that note, if we are, no discussion, do I have a vote on the amendments to Chapter 4, Sections 2 and 3?
To adopt.
What?
To adopt the amendment.
To adopt the amendments. You have a motion to adopt the amendments? You have a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay. Do I have a motion to vote on the rule, to adopt the rule 4.2 and 4.3 as amended?
Move.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. I'll defer back to you.
The next portion in Chapter 4 is the addition of 4.1D5. And that would read, positions added to the unclassified service under this subsection shall be submitted for reauthorization in accordance with policy and/or guidelines developed by the State Police Commission and the Executive Director.
Yeah.
Okay,
That would be a new, 4.1D5.
gotcha. All right, do we have any public comments on the proposed amendments to 4.1D5? Do we have any discussion at the table about the proposed amendment?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, I think the word developed should be changed to the word adopted, and we should drop the last four words in that particular paragraph and should end with police commission.
okay, so policy and/or
Guidelines adopted by the State Police Commission.
guidelines.
What about the positions that are added solely by the Director and not the Commission pursuant to 4.1D1? Does everything, are you proposing that everything goes through us?
So I'm proposing that if there are going to be reauthorizations in accordance with policies or guidelines, that those policies or guidelines should be adopted by this commission rather than by the director. But whenever we have policies and guidelines, it should be the commission, not the director.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah, so, and then when he makes that appointment, it will be pursuant to the policies and guidelines that we adopted.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't take us long.
No, it doesn't take, but it would be pursuant to the policies and guidelines that we adopted.
So you want to reread it now with those changes?
Well, I
And
have
have
an
discussion?
additional change as well, because we referred to the Director as the Director in the first four, or the first three rather, we should refer to the Director consistently in 5 and take out executive.
But it's not correct.
It would be removed entirely based on the.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
removing it
Verbiage, yeah.
entirely? Okay.
So, as proposed,
So reread
right,
with
as
the changes,
So,
yes.
as the proposed changes read, it would say 4.1D5, positions added to the unclassified service under this subsection shall be submitted for reauthorization in accordance with policy and/or guidelines adopted by the State Police Commission. Here.
Okay, now that we've made that amendment, is there any discussion at this time based on that reading? Is there any further discussion on that topic?
I'll move.
Do I have a second? Well, all right, well, it's a motion to adopt the amendments to 4.1D, Section 5. Can you motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Do I have a motion to adopt the rule change to Rule 4.1D, Section 5 as amended?
I'll move.
Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Moving on.
The next section, next chapter, with a revision, will be in chapter 8. Specifically, 8.10D, detailed special duty. The first proposed amendment is to remove a word from 4.10D3. I'm sorry, 8.1D3.
That was 10.
Pardon me. 8.10D3. Thank you. As it reads, when an employee is officially detailed to special duty, the employee shall be retroactively paid at the rate they could receive upon promotion to such position, all in accordance with Rule 6.11. The proposed amendment would say when an employee is officially detailed to special duty, the employee shall be paid the rate they could receive upon promotion to such position, all in accordance with Rule 6.11.
Okay, do we have any public comment on that proposed rule change? Do we have any discussion on the proposed rule change?
I have a question. It seems to me that the word retroactive was stricken because it's somewhat redundant in light of the beginning clause, but is there, I just want to make sure there wasn't any other reason why the word retroactive was in there.
That was essentially for, because it's redundant.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, do I have a vote to adopt the amendments to Rule 8.10D, Section 3?
Move.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Do I have a motion to adopt the rule change for 8.10D, Section 3 as amended? We're just voting for the rule change.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Let me just go ahead and say I apologize. It may seem like we're being redundant on a lot of this. It's just simply the way it has to go, so it's going to be a little bit cumbersome.
The next portion in 8.10D would be the addition of 3 additional lines. And it would be 8.10D5 as proposed. An appointing authority may end a detail at any time. 8.10D6. The director may issue policy standards for use of details to special duty. 8.10D7. The director may at any time cancel a detail to special duty and/or withdraw an agency's authority to detail employees for longer than 1 month.
Okay, do we have any public comment on those proposed rule changes? Do we have any discussion at the table about those proposed rule changes?
I would ask on number 6, unless there's some other places covered in the rule and I'm not aware of it, that it should end, after the word duty, it should have upon approval by the commission. Well, I was going to raise something about 7 as
Okay.
well, but I mean, if you want to.
No, that's, I was just wondering, I thought that was in line, that's, okay.
And as to number 7, I guess it's more of a question. Would the agency not have authority to appeal to the board if the director terminated or canceled the detail to special duty? And should we not allow the agency to request the board to review that decision?
Right. This would only be used in instances, I believe, where there was apparent need to draw authority based on some sort of.
I mean, granted, as long as you're sitting in that chair, that
Yeah,
might
well,
be the
sure.
case.
What was the
Correct.
discussion about that made you write that?
So well, actually, these were written. I was directed to also review how state civil service.
That was at my request, I believe.
These 3 additions came directly from their rules as well, and was placed in here to support the need for review and or suspend authority. But certainly we could.
And although there wouldn't be necessarily appeal rights, it doesn't stop them from requesting
Requesting
again.
again.
You know, requesting that someone be put in, and that would go before the commission.
I'm just
Yeah.
concerned that, and I appreciate it. It was my request, and I want to thank the commission the director for his hard work on it. But it's just, I mean, this Civil Service Commission is a little more unwieldy than this little 7-member commission, and so sometimes we might get some great ideas from them, but we may need to tweak them a little bit.
I agree with you, Louis. I could see a situation where, again, not insinuating it's you, but years from now, when all of us are out of here, you have a director that, with a swipe of a pen, gets rid of Troop N, and the only rights that state police has is to come here maybe a month later and ask that it be reinstated. That's a lot of lag time that damage could be done to the citizens, to the state, to everything during that period of time. I know that's an extraordinary hypothetical, but at the end of the day, it's a possibility. So I think, I agree with you, Liz, we need to put something in there to tighten that up.
Is it, I'm just asking, if we just change the verbiage from the director may at any time.
Or just strike it.
Why not just say the commission may at any time, upon conducting a hearing, and that would put the motion to a vote of the commission.
I'd prefer something like that.
So could we change the verbiage to the commission may at any time cancel a detail, a special duty, and/or withdraw an agency's authority to detail employees for longer than 1 month with a vote? I mean, would that satisfy the need? Because you would have to have a vote of the board.
Well, I think that just saying the commission may do this necessitates that there was a vote, because the commission can't act unless you have a quorum and a quorum vote.
So we change it from the director to the commission may.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that work?
And I like it because then it would have to go to public notice. The powers to be at state police would be put on notice, and they could come in and speak their piece. Yeah,
Okay.
something like
That
that.
would satisfy me.
Myself as well.
Let's-
Reread them?
Yes, so I'll read the proposed additions to 8.10D. 8.10D6, as amended, would say, the director may issue policy standards for use of details to special duty upon approval by the commission. 8.10D7, the commission may, at any time, cancel a detail to special duty and/or withdraw an agency's authority to detail employees for longer than 1 month.
Any public discussion on those proposed changes? Any discussion amongst the board? Do I have a motion to adopt the amendments to Rule 8.10D, Sections 5, 6, and 7?
Move.
Do I have a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Okay. Do I have a vote to adopt the rules for 8.10D as amended?
Move.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Again, I apologize for the redundancy. It's just simply the way it has to be done.
The next section within Chapter 8 is on the temporary duty assignment rule, 8.10E. This will be the addition of 8.10E4. And this was proposed in response to situations such as Troop in New Orleans, where additional time may be needed. And so this was drafted for that. 8.10E4. When an appointing authority determines that a temporary duty period lasting beyond 180 days is in the immediate best interest of public safety, the appointing authority may submit a request to the commission for consideration of an extension to the temporary duty period.
Any public discussion? Any discussion on the board?
Was this designed to basically require that when it reaches 180 days, there has to be, I think we should change the word may to shall submit. If it's intended to be a mandatory.
Any further discussion? Hey, I like it. Any further discussion or any changes? If you'll read it as amended.
As amended?
Yes.
When an appointing authority determines that a temporary duty period lasting beyond 180 days is in the immediate best interest of public safety, the appointing authority shall submit a request to the commission for consideration of an extension to the temporary duty period.
Do I have is there any discussion on that amended rule? Any discussion on board?
I'll make the motion.
I have a question. I think I know, but I want to make sure I understand. This not only applies to a situation like Troop N, it applies any time An individual is appointed as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt the amendments to rule, that's gonna be 8.10E, section 4?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Do I have a vote or a motion to adopt the rule 8.10E, section 4 as amended? Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. Moving on.
The next proposed change was actually brought to my attention by the Human Resources Administrator. And regarding compensatory leave, and it's merely based on
Let's steal some more minutes.
got some
He's trying to keep me from coughing over you.
okay. Bring the whole jar. Again, sorry. The proposed change was brought to my attention by Human Resources Director based on the actual practice of compensatory leave being canceled or paid at the end of the fiscal year, not the calendar year. So it was some old verbiage. This was an update. And also provides the verbiage which will allow an agency to pay compensatory time balances. So it would be under 11.29F. As it currently reads, caps on accumulation of compensatory leave are found under the provisions of Rule 6.25. Excess accumulations of compensatory leave earned hour for hour, non-federal, non-fair labor standards act will be canceled at the end of the calendar year, as proposed. 11.29F. Caps on accumulation of compensatory leave are found under the provisions of Rule 6.25. Excess accumulation of compensatory leave earned hour for hour, non-fair labor standards act will be canceled at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, do we have any public discussion concerning Rule 11.29, Section F? Do we have any discussion by the board?
Can I ask a question? When it's canceled, does that mean they paid it, or it's just wiped out? What does cancel mean?
Cancel means that it is wiped out. If it's in excess of the caps.
And that's allowed under the fair standards?
Fair Labor Standards Acts would govern non-exempt employees, and all compensatory leave would need to be paid for non-exempt employees. But those in exempt positions and the caps associated with the accumulated leave in excess of the provided caps would be canceled.
Thank
And
you.
that's consistent with other civil services.
And that's the current rule, we're just,
Yeah,
that's
we're
the
just
current rule, we're just
changing.
changing from calendar to fiscal year.
Right.
I'll move.
Second. All right, we have a motion to adopt the amendments to Rule 11, Section F. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries. Do we have a motion to adopt Rule 11.29F as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it, motion carries.
And then the last one. We made it. This would be the proposed addition of a rule. So it would be 11.29K. And as proposed, an agency may pay the balance of an employee's compensatory time at any time. The rate of pay shall be calculated in accordance with the rules.
I got a question. My question, have you calculated what this gonna cost? What if 100 people decide they wanna take this money out at one time? Can the state afford to to do that? I mean, what's the cost factor? There's gotta be a cost for
This would be a mechanism for the agency if they so choose, if they could budgetarily afford to pay the K time. As it currently stands, the balances are accumulated and then they're canceled at the end of the fiscal year if they're not paid or used. But then an agency may choose, this would allow the agency to, at the end of a period of time, actually pay if they could budgetarily afford it.
But this would only be the agency electing to do this. An individual couldn't say, I want you to buy all my
An
K-time.
individual would have K-time accumulating, and they can use vacation days, which would pull from their K-time balances. But with regards to the discretion to actually pay at any time, the agency did not have written in the rules the authority to just review and say, we can pay 200 hours of K-time based on our budgetary situation, or some other number. I believe, and I could be wrong, that the agency, again, with the practice of their DPS employees are able to do this. And this is with their LSP, their state police employees, this would be probably not going to be used.
I guess my only question would be, and once again, I'm not making an accusation that anyone would do this, but we just looked at the rule that says you've got excess over and above the cap. At the end of the fiscal year, it gets wiped out. Just hypothetically, and I know it's probably more than 10, you got 10 employees that got excess compensatory leave the day before the fiscal year ends. The agency decides to pay one of them and chooses not to pay the other 9, or vice versa. I mean, it's subject to potential abuse. I just want to recognize that. I'm not saying I'm against the rule, but we got to recognize it's subject to potential abuse.
And I was going to ask if Ginger is here.
Okay, maybe she can educate us.
To see if we can have some clarity.
Yeah, so the civil service does have a similar rule where you are only allowed X amount of K time to be accumulated throughout the fiscal year, and at the end of the fiscal year, if you are a exempt employee, that those balances are either reduced or paid at the agency discretion. So it is practice for all of the state to do this. It is required by Fair Labor Standards Act, if you have time and a half K, that we must pay that. So anybody that is non-exempt gets paid those excess balances. What we're trying to do is not penalize the exempt employees that are working overtime and accumulating those balances by mandating those balances be reduced at the fiscal year. If the agency can afford it, we'd like to pay it. Yeah.
No, and I understand that's what's going on, but I mean, addressing my question, is it not, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it could be subject to abuse.
Yeah, I do see what you're saying. I just wanted to say that,
Yeah.
that is the practice across all state employees. So yes, the potential's there. I see that. It's also there in the civil service rules as well, for both commission and non-commission.
Is there a policy in place currently with regards to pay for DPS employees? Or is it, how is it determined that pay time would be? If you're.
Well,
I know with the division administration.
we don't have a written policy right now. We're currently going through and revising our DPS policies and procedures. I can tell you the practice of human resources and of the administration is throughout the beginning of the fiscal year, we send the administration a report quarterly of all K-time balances in excess of the caps for commission and non-commission employees. In the last quarter of the fiscal year, we start sending them more frequently. We'll send them every 2 weeks, and then we'll go down to every week, so they're very aware of those balances, and they can, where possible, try to control the balances by having people take leave, not scheduling them as much. Sometimes that's not possible, especially when you're talking about a police force. Sometimes people have to work. So they're very aware of the balances and the cost associated with it as the year goes on, so they can budget for whether they need to pay or reduce.
And just saying, in other agencies at the end of the year, they might issue a directive from the appointing authority that says up to 50 hours of K balance will be paid at the end of the
That has not been the practice of DPS. The practice of DPS, since I have been here, has been just looking at the balances above the cap and whether they can afford to either pay or reduce them all.
Has the practice been to uniformly
Yes.
across the board make that decision as opposed to
Yes.
on an individual basis?
verbiage.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out something that eliminates the potential. I'm not making any accusations, but the potential for abuse that be done on a
Uniform policy.
pro rata basis or some, something across the board, because that's what they intend
Right.
anyway, so, and I'm not necessarily saying I thought out the language, but give me a minute, I'm making things up.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the fiscal year ends in October, correct?
No, July.
July.
Sorry, it begins July 1st, it ends June
It just
30th.
July 1st. I know typically, most supervisors begin asking their employees in the spring, what is your K-time balance? Because they don't want to reach the end of that threshold and you be sitting on excessive K-time.
Right.
It's typically managed mid-level to the top, where they don't want somebody sitting there with 80, 90 hours over. And,
Correct.
so, right, I mean, that doesn't mean it's universally consistent, it doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's the rule, it's just kind of the standard practice.
Right.
Well, can I offer to, maybe we table this last one till next month, and that'll give you and Euless time to get together and try and put the language together, so he's not on the spot trying to come up with something and y'all aren't.
Yeah.
That way it gives us some time to pass this around, because it's a valid point that he brings up, and,
And there won't be any cancellation until June of next year now, right?
Correct.
so.
Good time.
So we got
So
time.
I'd like
do
to
it.
make the motion, we table that last one for 30 days.
Second, okay. All in favor of tabling the rule change to chapter 11.29 subsection K till the August meeting? All in favor? All opposed? The ayes have it, we will table it till next month. Okay, moving on, is there any further discussion on the rule change?
Before we move off that, let me check something. Our August meeting is when?
What date is our August meeting?
Hang on. It's the second Thursday, if you have a calendar up.
Okay, I got it. Okay, that's fine.
I got you. Okay.
Just wanted to make sure I was gonna be here.
Gotcha. So, moving on to section 3, summary status and discussion of analysis of testing results and trooper response to test makeup and scoring. Mr. Hannaman?
Yes, I just wanted to give a quick update on where we are with regards to the post-test comment period that we've been in. We've received approximately 32 appeals for this test cycle, primarily requesting review of essay component, written component. There were approximately 6 questions out of those 32 that address specific test question concerns. So it's roughly less than 7% of the actual testers have submitted a request for review of their written portion. I have those in your under tab 3. One of the things I proposed to address the concerns of individuals is that we formalize a review process. We establish a process to where the concerns or requests for review come directly to this office and to my attention. I've drafted a promotional exam comment form that would be at each testing location and would also be available online. And this would be the mechanism to use to address all comments. Those comments would be compiled, and then it's my intention to convene a round table of some sort, a test administrator, a subject matter expert, myself, someone in the ranks of Louisiana State Police, as far as a subject matter expert, to review and validate possibly retire a question from the test bank to actually touch the test question and concern, because I know that there was concern and comment last meeting that one particular question had appeared multiple times across the last couple of years. And so it's my determination, and I'm not aware of how the review process was conducted previously, but establishing a formalized process that question in particular would be reviewed, would be again validated that it is in accordance with current law, there is a correct answer, or that there isn't a correct answer and one needs to be added, or the question itself needs to be moved. So the process to do so as far as review and formalized. Right, and one of the issues that arose is that some individuals reached out to the test administrator directly, sent researched and sent faxes directly to her location of work, rather than coming through the commission or via email or mail or phone call to us, who actually were seeking out that individual to provide comments. And so there definitely appeared a need to provide a formalized avenue and a mechanism to let their voice be heard. And we still have not received from the LSTA the information that they indicated they were going to provide regarding their concerns regarding testing.
I'm actually having a meeting tomorrow, and to explain to you what he's talking about, myself and Mr. Hannaman actually spoke to the LSTA and have reached out to the CSTC, which are the two labor union associations in state police, trying to find a mechanism for the troopers to be heard about improving this test. Ultimately, one of the things that came from this was this promotional exam comment form that Mr. Hannaman created. The thing is that two concerns that we heard from troopers, it weren't just complaints directly about tests, but one was they didn't feel that they were being heard. They didn't know if their comments were getting to anyone, that it was being heard. Second thing was anonymity. They did not want to get called out for complaining about a test. They were worried about that. So this form will be kept in-house, anonymous. We will compile these complaints. That way we can tell Helen Wise what the troopers' complaints are. Maybe she can improve the test or refine the test to where we can weed out some of these problems. And we're working in conjunction with the LSTA to compile statewide. Every troop president is compiling a list of complaints, and those reports will be directed to the president of the LSTA, Mr. O'Quinn, and he will refine those down into a final report with complaints, comments, and suggestions for us to review and provide to Dr. Wise. So, as well as Mr. Miller, Thurman Miller, the president of the CSTC, he's doing the same with his labor organization as well. I'll give you the floor back, I'm sorry.
I like the idea of them having, a way to report back to us, because, I heard the comments last meeting, and especially the comments about some of the test questions having more than one right answer or no right answer, and it had been on year after year. Looking at the scores, the scores look kind of in line, if not better than years past. But I understand too that just looking at one sheet of numbers doesn't define any issues that there could be with those tests. So I'm glad to see us taking a proactive step in this direction.
Any further discussion? Okay, moving on. Oh, yes, sir.
Is it open for public comment now?
Oh, yes, please come up here and have a seat. It's just easier because the recorder's there. We can't hear you back there.
This is the first time I've been to a commission meeting, so just tell me formally what I'm supposed to do before I get started, and I'll be brief.
Just introduce yourself, and then you can speak away.
Okay, I'm Sheldon Perkins, almost 17-year member with the state police, and currently work here in headquarters. And I'll be brief. Mr. Hannaman, the part of the main reason why I came to the commission meeting, because I know you just mentioned that you're still waiting on the LSTA to provide information that as far as troopers' complaints and everything. But the reason that I came to the meeting is that, as you're aware, I emailed you some time ago, and you responded to me pretty promptly and indicated that all of those comments were being forwarded because you all were fielding. For everyone's information, I took the captain's exam, and there are certainly issues that I have with that exam. But in your response, it means that all of the comments that were coming to the commission office were being forwarded to Dr. Helen Wise. So I was hoping that today that maybe we would get some response. And in particular, if this commission is not aware, one of the main problems with the captain's exam was that what was posted on the bulletin board was that the makeup of the test was going to be 20 questions from the DA's handbook, 20 questions from policy and procedure, 30 questions from the leadership material, and then 30 points for writing. As we took the exam, there were 20 questions from DA's handbook, which was correct. There were 25 questions from policy and procedure. There were 30 questions from leadership. And then at that point, we were up to 75 points for the test. Then we get to the writing portion, I was under the assumption that maybe that was going to be 25, but when I get my grade notice, the grade notice indicated that I only took 20 questions on policy and procedure. The leadership points were 30 points, and the writing portion was 30 points. And we still have not heard back about that. So that's all my comments, but that's what I kind of wanted to hear as to what happened to the additional 5 points.
Sure. And all questions and comments were routed to the desk administrator. And I did get feedback on that particular comment, because I believe someone else had mentioned as well, and I apologize for not following up with you on the 25 points portion of, what was the policy and procedure?
Policy and procedure, yes, sir.
Yes. In speaking with Dr. Wise, the total points possible for policy and procedure were 20. There were 25 questions on the exam. The questions were weighted at a reduced, they weren't 1-to-1. So it was 0.9 or some
0.8.
To equate 0.8 to this. Thank you for that.
CPA, that kind of comes.
That's right. They were weighted, and so there were 25 points, but each question was not worth 1 point, it was worth 0.8 points, so that the total points possible would still be 20. And so that was Dr. Wise's response there.
So
there was more questions, but they weren't 1 point.
did she ever explain why that section only was weighted and not 1-to-1, such as the other sections?
She didn't provide an explanation as to that, but it provided an opportunity to gather more, information from the questions.
And I will say to your comment, because I'm one that the test is very important to me, and I prepare. I requested yesterday to get my test scores from previous years to show that I'm not one that just opens a book the night before the test. And I spend months studying for a test. But at the end of the exam, I brought my issues to the test administrator, who I believe was Arnold, who works with Dr. Wise. And when I brought up the issue of the makeup, her response to me was that, well, I just took the makeup of last year's exam and just changed the questions. And which concerned me, because if something as small as that slipped through the cracks, what else may have fallen through the cracks? So I can get long-winded, but you've addressed my question, and I will process that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And to echo his frustration, it's not the only complaint that we've heard. I'm certainly not saying that we have the perfect test. It needs improvement. But we certainly need to sit down with Helen and make sure she's hearing these types of complaints and ask what her plan to improve the test is, so that we don't have a repeat of these, so. Anything further at this time?
I'm gonna go back on the record, because every time we bring up testing, I'm gonna put it on the record. At some stage of the game, when we have the funding available to us as a commission, we need to take control of this testing, hire our own people, and keep it in-house. Every month, every time we talk about testing, there are troopers, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, everybody coming up here to complain about these tests. I'm just saying, at some stage of the game, I know we can't afford to do it now, I know it's something that's not going to happen in a year, but we have to do something at some stage of the game to bring this in-house and control it ourselves, better than the way it's being done.
Has it ever been in-house?
Sir?
Has it ever been in-house?
Not to my knowledge, I don't know.
Some California company before.
Goes outside. But it's my understanding that that when this cycle of tests, when 2013, when the test bank was created to pull from for these subsequent years, that the subject matter experts worked together at that time to generate those questions. And so if the bank has been generated, then that's something that the commission should include.
But again, at the end of the day, I mean, better explanation, like the gentleman just stated. Here's publicly how the test is going to be made up. All of us sitting up here would have assumed one question is 1 point in that situation, and then after the fact to come back and say it's 0.8 points per. I mean, just better clarification, better communication, better something, so that the people that are taking it, these guys, their lives depend on this test. Not just physical, but their fiscal lives depend on this. It needs better explanation. It's embarrassing to me as a commissioner. I've only been here for a year, but then when they talk about test questions that were on the last exam that have more than one right answer, or no right answer, or these kind of spelling errors, grammatical issues, it's embarrassing. We've got to get a better handle on this. I'm not fussing at you. I'm just
It's my commitment before the next test cycle comes up to have in place these sort of mechanisms for review and address as many issues as we can prior to the next cycle, so that we are communicating and that there is an understanding that we are hearing the concerns and the frustrations, and that we are looking into the matter. Like I said, I can't speak for what prior years. I've just been here since March.
I understand.
But I will certainly, it is my commitment to put forth the best product we can possibly put forward, again, given the budgetary constraints that we have, but improving upon what we have and making it.
Thank you, Jason.
If nobody objects, are we done discussing testing at this time?
I am.
Can we take a 5-minute, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Bucky, I just, according to what Mr. Riquet said, my question would be for the commission to look at the contract with LSU and see how much y'all are paying LSU, and see if you cancel that contract, how much money would be available to do in-house testing.
I can say that I believe the contract amount is $45,000 a year. It would be hard to press to find.
Jason and I had that conversation early on, and the money is just not there. We don't, again, hardware, software, personnel, we don't have it. There's no way we could do it for $45,000. But again, it's just something I keep fresh in his mind, that as the state's in a better fiscal position, we've got to get more money to be able to do this testing better.
You can take that money and go to the budget committee with tears in your eyes.
That's pretty much our plan.
That was going to be my suggestion. Even when the state's not in a better fiscal position, we need to start now with a specific idea that we need more money for this specific issue, and bring some of these horror stories to the budget committee and some of the complaints about the test, so that, I'm not being critical of our current testing, not you, or the current person doing the test, but if there are problems, there are problems, and we got to find a way to fix it.
We can do better, and we must do better. I mean, it's an obligation that we hold to the troopers to give the best test possible. Anybody object to a 5-minute break?
Great.
Just because I cut that off kind of abruptly, is there any further comments on testing at all before we move on? Okay, moving on to number 4. In the matter of Burnell Thompson III, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police, docket number 17-230. Section A, discussion of proposed settlement agreement and presentation by parties. And I'm going to defer to counsel.
Michelle Giroir can describe the settlement proposal.
Good morning, I'm Michelle Giroir. I'm here on behalf of the appointing authority as the attorney for the department. We had a status conference on the appeal of Burnell Thompson with Ms. Feeney, and during that status conference, the parties agreed to settle the matter by reducing the reprimand for the fleet crash to a letter of counseling. I have the original settlement agreement signed by Trooper Thompson as well as myself, and the revised letter to offer, introduce, and file with the commission today. Trooper Thompson's not here because he's working nights, and there was no matter in dispute, so he just thought we could present it to you.
Yes, sir.
Is this a matter that we could have executive?
Yes, we have it on the agenda if you want executive session, if I want executive session.
Okay.
I want it on this one for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to B, executive session.
Yeah.
Yeah, executive session to discuss litigation in the appeal of Burnell Thompson III, docket number 17-230. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Motion carries. We'll enter executive session to discuss settlement. To C, consideration and vote on whether to accept the proposed settlement agreement. Do I have any discussion by the board?
I'll make a motion to defer it to 30 days.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor of
Can we take
taking?
a roll call vote?
Oh, yes. We're going to do a roll call vote. All in favor of tabling the vote to accept, whether or not to accept the proposed settlement agreement to the August meeting. Christie, if you'll do the roll call vote.
Calvin Braxton.
Yes.
Jared Ricky.
Yes.
Thomas Doe.
Yes.
Monica McVella.
Yes.
Michael Nordstrom.
Yes.
Eric Marie. Eunice Simmons.
No, I'd be ready to vote against the settlement.
Duly noted. Any further comments? We're going to move on to number 5. In the matter of Willie W. Palmer III, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police, docket number 17-232. Section A, discussion of proposed settlement agreement and presentation by parties.
Michelle Gerard here again on behalf of the appointing authority.
Lloyd Falcon on behalf of Mr. Palmer.
And for you, we have the originals of the documents that it should have already been circulated to settle this appeal. The parties have agreed on a reduced suspension, and we think that it's meaningful discipline and will resolve the issue at hand.
You say you reduce the suspension. What was it when you reduce?
It was 540 hours reduced to 320 hours. That's the only thing that has changed.
And can we ask why there was a reduction? Was it just part of a negotiating process, or were there reasons for it?
The appointing authority considered Mr. Palmer's response to the disciplinary letter, considered the facts, and felt that the 320 hours would resolve the issue. It's meaningful discipline, and we resolve the issue without any litigation. It's negotiations.
Okay.
And Trooper Palmer's currently serving that discipline, and we came before you today because if it is approved, his suspension ends today. So that was the reason we wanted it on the agenda today. He's been serving the disciplinary suspension, and if it gets reduced to the 320 hours, that suspension would end today, which is why we wanted to get it on your agenda today for consideration and have a resolution for that.
Is he allowed to use annual leave on the suspension?
No, suspension is you're away from duty without pay. You don't get to use annual leave.
So using roughly a 40-hour work week, he's been ostensibly sitting on the sidelines for 8.75 weeks
Yes,
currently?
he's been away from duty, correct.
Okay.
I think the actual date is in the letter. That tells you what date the suspension started on the first page.
And just to be clear, is it an opportunity for a trooper to actually continue to work and take a reduction in wages to serve their suspension, or do they have to actually be off?
If an employee gets an intended disciplinary letter that proposes a suspension from duty, in their response, they could request a reduction in pay. When a reduction in pay is implemented, they still come to work, but their pay is reduced by a certain amount. There are limitations in the commission rules. Their pay cannot be reduced below minimum wage or below the minimum for their pay range. So with lengthy suspensions like this, it would take a very long time to implement the reduction in pay, and they can't work any overtime or extra duty during pay periods in which they're serving discipline. So that's all considered when you do a reduction in pay versus a suspension from duty.
Most often, a reduction in pay or for 12-hour suspensions or something like that. On an extended suspension like this, it just wouldn't work out.
We're trying to figure out in globe, with these kind of settlements, are the troopers actually being, like I said, my terminology, put on the sidelines, or are they working reduced sentences, or can they use K-time, or how is, what I'm saying? We're trying to figure out how it is.
They're totally without pay, and they are not reporting for duty.
Park the car, we'll see you at 9.
Or they take the cars away from them.
Yeah.
And all of their, equipment and so forth.
Okay.
So he has been serving the suspension, and if it's reduced to the 320 hours, that ends today.
Okay.
So, and this is something that the appointing authority doesn't take lightly. We've had a change in administration, so he's thoroughly reviewed it and is comfortable saying in his decision as the appointing authority that this will settle the matter, that it's meaningful discipline. The purpose of discipline is to correct behavior, and that this would be sufficient for this employee.
And I guess that would be my question. In addition to settling the thing, avoiding litigation, does the department feel like this guy's learned a lesson? Because this is inappropriate behavior.
Obviously, the appointing authority considered that and considered all options in the discipline, and this is where he decided to land as far as resolve. Yes. I represent the appointing authority.
I understand.
These are my decisions. I'm here on his behalf today to tell you that he thinks it's a fair resolution to the issue and will correct the behavior.
Mr. Simeon, I think this disciplinary action, the events occurred during the prior administration, and this was Colonel Reeves' to my knowledge, his first imposition of a penalty. And this was the penalty he thought was appropriate. Other people might have been different, but this is what he decided to do.
Any further discussion?
Is public comment open on this or not?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know Mr. Simeon asked a question, and I know it's a new administration and trying to make changes, but I know under the old administration, there was a trooper out of Lake Charles, Troop D, that had a suspension, and he was working, making overtime pay, working when he was on suspension. And I'm sure they can tell you who he is. I wouldn't name him if I knew it. But getting to the point of your earlier concern about being equally, I'm assuming that Colonel Reeves and the new administration is going to do it equally. But in the past, that has happened. When you were asking, she said you could take a cut and pay it off. But he was working, making house moves and stuff. Just something for y'all's information.
I'd like to comment on that. I don't think that's really relevant to this case, first of all. Second of all, the policy, it's not commission rules, it's state police policy and procedure that says a trooper cannot work overtime when he's on suspension. It also says except with the permission of the appointing authority. There are situations where we may have got certain events going on and we don't have enough staff. And I'll tell you, that's why the agency, when they can, uses reductions in pay, because we don't lose the manpower. The trooper still reports to duty. So there could be situations where the colonel determines, I need this guy to work, and can allow him to work while he was serving a disciplinary action. It's not the norm, but I can promise you, Mr. Palmer has not been working during this time and probably has had to obtain secondary employment to feed his family.
I look at, I will make a motion to approve the settlement.
But I guess my only comment to that, though, is this. It is relevant if that kind of behavior continues, because we have to decide whether we want to approve these settlements. Now, I understand in this case it did not occur. And it's one thing to say that there's a rule that prevents them from working overtime, except when the agency decides that they can work overtime. That's not a rule when the agency that regulates it has the authority to basically disregard the rules. So.
And we're just trying to understand it too. I mean, I understand when you're talking about a 10-hour suspension that they lose 2 hours a week for 5 weeks. We understand that. But, 300 and something hours for somebody, the way we read it, or the way I read it, I'm not speaking for my fellow commissioners, the way I read it, lied to a sergeant, left the scene of an accident, comes back in his shorts and t-shirt. I mean, it's kind of messed up. So knowing that he sat on the sidelines for 8-9 weeks, that means something. Whereas if he's just going to get dinged 5 hours a week for the next 15 years, I mean, come on, what discipline is that really for us to be sitting here looking at? So that's why we were asking for the clarification. I agree. What's happened in the past, that's the old administration, that's the past. I care about today and what's in the future.
And the letter outlines how the discipline is implemented. He started his suspension, I want to say it was March 22nd. May 22nd at 1,300 hours. I'm sorry, 1,700 hours, and if approved, it will end today at 1,300 hours. He has served that suspension, he's been away from duty.
We read it.
And in fact,
We
that
read
had to
it.
get
We
another
want-
job. I mean, he's
Okay.
to support his
We
family
read it.
for
We
that
wanted to
period of
hear it.
time.
Yes, that is correct.
But they took his car. I mean, on extended, you're right. If you have just a reduction in pay, you actually work, you just take less pay. It's not
Right.
like you get the 2 hours off.
Right.
But in that case, you're not losing your use of your
Unit,
vehicle,
yeah, all that kind
your
of stuff. So
uniform,
that's
all
what
of
we're
that
really
sort of
trying to
stuff.
figure out.
This is a real hard suspension that required this man to go out and get a job doing construction work.
For a
which I'm
couple
sure-
of months.
I'm sure he's happy to get off. Be happy to get off of that.
I'll second Mr. Bryson.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and do a roll call vote for this one to be consistent. We have a motion to approve the settlement of Willie Palmer. Ms. Christie, would you do a roll call vote for the matter?
Calvin Braxton,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Yes.
Tommy Cobb,
Yes.
Michael Monroe, Michael Armstrong,
Yes.
Howard Curry, Eddie Simeon,
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 6 on the agenda, discussion of response to State Police Commission request that T. Taylor Townsend prepare State Police Commission documents that were obtained or generated by him in his role as legal counsel for the State Police Commission, and of the report that he should have prepared in connection with the summary disposition of docket number 16-221-I, investigation of LSTA political contributions.
An update on that. As you recall, last commission meeting, I informed you that I had given a letter, or sent a letter, certified mail to Mr. Townsend requesting this information. As of end of the day yesterday, I did receive a box of documents. I have not opened that box, but I did receive a box of documents. It's my understanding that it's merely the files. In my conversation with Mr. Townsend last week, he understood he was going to send those files to us. They were part of the commission's property, and that he was going to work on drafting a summary decision for your review and signature. That was going to happen by the end of last week. He was going to follow up with myself and Ms. Feeney here as our counsel. I haven't heard back from Mr. Townsend as of today. But there is progress, and then the files are in the office. But the decision summary decision, which is for your review, has not been finalized or submitted to us as of yet.
Any comments?
We said last week,
Is it last week?
that we would get it last week.
Oh,
So that was, I spoke with Ms. Lundgren on his firm about the tracking information, and I was able to get that, and she said she would speak with Taylor. This was yesterday. So I spoke with her.
If you don't mind, just please keep the commission updated and let us know when the report is received. So, any further comments?
Just ask that we put this back on the agenda for next time.
Absolutely.
If you would, shoot us an email after you go through the box. I saw the box, it's huge. After you go through it and figure out what's in it, just shoot us an email, let us know what's in it.
Okay, number 7, other commission business.
I got comment on it. As you noticed, when I walked in, I guess the news reporter came up to me and was going to ask me questions. For my fellow board members, my daughter got arrested for DWI a year and a half ago, and it's been addressed. Some people filed a complaint. It went through the process. It's over with. It's done. A couple of weeks ago, also, let me say this, I put off twice. I did meet with somebody from the Attorney General's office yesterday with request my attorney to talk to a case about Kathy. I did do that yesterday with her advice and telling me to do that. I want to bring my fellow board members aware that I did have a conversation with the Attorney General's office about things that had taken place. The third thing was I called Mr. Ricky, and not Mr. Ricky, I'm sorry, Jerry, and asked him, do we have any public records requests? And he indicated we did, and there was one pertaining to me and the fellow board members on questions that, information that this news reporter wanted. And since it was involving me, I made a special point to ask you to send it to everybody. I don't know whether you've done that or not. The request that they wanted copies of my emails or whatever emails I had with Kathy, and also there was information on there about other board members. Now, I assume you sent it to them, but if you did. Okay, all right. But I called you the other day and talked to you about Taylor Townsend here, and I just happened to mention, say, be sure to send everything that they need. And I asked you, did you send everything? You said the only thing that you didn't, because the information that they wanted was before I got on the board. Am I right or wrong? But anyway, cut a long story short, this guy hit me with tickets. I don't know nothing about. If I did do tickets, I don't know. But if you would, for my board members, would you get copies of the stuff that you sent them with emails pertaining to me and Kathy, and disperse it to the board where they would know? Because my daughter deal was a year and a half ago. I've been through that. Now the ticket deal, I have no idea. If I did, I did. I mean, it's the records are there, but I think these board members need to be aware what's happening with me, because it don't take a rocket science to figure out what's going on. But I would appreciate it that I'm gonna got a wide back, big boy. Please send my fellow board members information that public records request, where they would have it in front of them, where it won't be something that I didn't know. I mean, what you said, you told me you didn't send them because it wasn't nothing to send. But if you did send them something, please give it to my fellow board members where they can be aware of whatever's going on. Now that's my last comment, but please, because I want to see what tickets I put in there.
Sure. And part of the records request, and I don't have the exact request in front of me, but part of the records request was for expenses, items done, spent on the department's statements, financial statements, as well as correspondence between yourself and
Cars, it would go to board members.
Any expenditures or
board members' expense account. You had all that.
It was a lot of itemized,
yes, okay.
and we were able to pull those. One of the line items was email correspondence between yourself and the former executive director. In our discussion yesterday, I mentioned that it was for a date range that included a time frame when you weren't even commissioner.
That, I got, but I didn't get the other point.
And so, but there were emails that were recovered, and they were in a box. They're available for
Please,
review.
I mean, please send
And
them
so,
to.
but it was all part of that one
I mean,
responsive
would have been
document.
nice, that I think my board members, if it's something pertaining to board members, I would think it's very, very important. I would, for my fellow board members to be able to know what somebody's doing, what they're looking for. It's public record. You know, so I just want to make that clear. I got a while back. I don't have anything to hide. What's there is there, and but I just want to bring everybody up to date to let them know that. And I think it's over with. Let it run its trout line. Let's do what it got to do. So I'm fine.
And I'll work to provide access.
That's great. That's fine. I'm fine. And I apologize to my board members this morning because I wasn't aware that was going on. And again, it's family. It took place a year and a half ago. People did what they did. The governor did what he did. I'm still here, so I have no other comment.
To dovetail off his statement, what I would like to see is anytime this board gets a public information request, I'd like it sent forwarded to all the commissioners to keep us in the loop. You know, if there's a public, no matter what it's for or who it's for, I would like to have those. Not, you know, don't wait till Friday to include it. You get it, just forward it on as an FYI, public information request Tuesday at 3:32 p.m., whatever. But I'd like to see those too.
So don't wait till the end.
I wouldn't wait till the end. I would go ahead and send them to everybody so we all know what's going on as far as that goes. It could be everything from, like Mr. Braxton said, something about him or any commissioner personally. It could be just a typical lawsuit. It could be whatever it is. I think that all the commissioners should have immediate access to those requests.
And taking that one step further, the minute the request is received, please let all the board members know, and when you do the response, please let everybody know. That way we know that it's being done in a timely manner in accordance with the public records law.
And obviously copy Ms. Feeney on that as well.
Well, I usually have to look at it to take the attorney-client privilege stuff out, so.
Right. I know I'm being redundant.
That's been the theme of today's meeting.
Yes,
I have a request.
Yes, sir.
Someone from the administration be here next month meeting. I have several questions that I'm going to discuss.
I'll make note of that and reach out to the chief of staff to ensure that someone is asked to be here.
Any other business?
You didn't get all that.
Well, the director's report, do you have anything further to elaborate on?
The only thing I wanted to mention is, in an attempt to assist, after we went through the detailed information last year, the TDY information, last commission meeting, and the temporary duty assignments, and requests for unclassified authority, I've been working, in addition to the comment form for the promotional exam, I've been working, and I believe it's in your binder in section 3, but to do, to fill forms that, again, request for unclassified authority to come before this commission, which would include the pertinent information, job duties, expiration dates on authority, as well as the TDY assignment, a form, whereas previously it was tracked via email, very informally. We're going to have capture all the relevant data, indicate the maximum date of 180 days it calculates for the administration, and then have the administration indicate the purpose and sign off on it. And so I'm working behind the scenes to work these out, and I'll be continue to share this information with you as we work to improve our tracking and our keeping the administration accountable for their actions in regards to these things. That's all I really had for my direction.
Just on a side note, and for the director's report, but I did want to say that this last month has been the month of technical difficulties for the commission, and we had our server crash. We're having printer issues, and Mr. Hannaman's been working on that. The server, God bless you for your hard work, sir, because the server was basically, an antique. And he's been working, trying to get bids to find us the most economical solution for having a sustainable server, and working with us to help resolve our printer and scanner issues. And also, we're going to be diving into the computer issues for the commission, because all of our computers are, well, for lack of a better word, antiques as well, and trying to resolve those issues. Did you address last month that we did the hiring exam in-house at the director's meeting?
That was after the commission meeting, so in the month, we did have an on-site in the conference room. We set up some individual privacy testing corrals, and we hosted a session of cadet applicants on-site with our test staff, and to administer that in-house. With an opportunity to look forward to potentially hosting multiple sessions throughout the month, rather than just once a month, and then also move towards computerized testing of cadet exams, and ability to have that on-site at our completion, rather than moving to a classroom on campus.
I just wanted to include that. I
Thank
appreciate your
you, yeah.
report.
I've been trying to keep you updated in emails, but it has been an ongoing issue with the server, and we're making progress, especially now that our budget has been approved in full for this fiscal year. We're working on spreading those monies and moving forward with replacing our server, and also having a maintenance agreement and things in place so that we don't have the critical failure of the server, which happened the day after I managed to initiate a full backup. So I was able to initiate a full backup, and the very next day, our server crashed. Attempting to apply 111 updates from 2013, which was the last time an update had been issued, not even applied. And so it's a 2003 server.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the last time it had been backed up was 2013 or something.
Months prior, it was 2016 at least. There's no real way of knowing. None of the recent backups that occurred over the last several months had taken. So I'm not sure when it officially truly backed up. So, but we do have a backup, and we are using it, and we are up and running now thanks to the folks that we work with. And we are moving along. There's 2 proposals right now to replace our server, and we're moving forward with that. We do have the data. Yes.
Anything further? Nothing further? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All